Hey guys, welcome back. This lesson is on the law of definite proportions. Your objective is to explain how all compounds obey the law of definite proportions. What that means is any amount of a substance that you have has a set amount of each element that makes it up. So the percent of one element in a compound is always the same regardless of how much you have. Now, if you have a sample, you can always determine what it is by measuring the mass of the individual elements that make it up. The basic formula for a percentage is to take the small amount of something and divide it by the total amount of that something. So here we have the mass of the element divided by the mass of the whole compound and multiply that by 100. So before you can calculate the percent by mass of an element in a compound, you first have to know how to count atoms. So let's make sure we can do that. Sugar has the formula C6H12O6. These numbers below this line here are called subscripts, and the subscripts follow the element, and they tell you how much of that element there is in the compound. So there are 6 atoms of carbon, 6 carbon. There are 12 atoms of hydrogen in glucose. And there are 6 atoms of oxygen. Let's try one more. This formula has parentheses in it. So let's start simple here. We have 7 carbon. We have 5 hydrogen atoms. For nitrogen, how many do we have? Is it 1? Nope, it's not 1. Is it 2? Nope, there's more than 2. Is it 3? Yes, there are 3 atoms of nitrogen. So you take the number outside the parentheses and multiply it by the quantity inside. So there's an invisible 1 here. We don't write the 1 because if you see the element symbol N, you automatically know there is 1 atom there. We don't write the 1. But 3 times 1, it gives you 3 atoms of nitrogen. How about for oxygen? Are there 2 oxygen atoms in this compound? No, there are 6. 3 times 2 gives us 6. So what this says is there are 3 groups of NO2 attached to the C7H5 portion of the molecule. Now that you know how to count atoms, let's calculate the percent by mass of each element in glucose. Let's do carbon first, since it's the first element in the compound. For carbon, we know that there are 6 atoms of it, and we need to know the mass of each carbon atom. So I'm going to click on my periodic table to go back a few slides and find carbon. Up here, carbon has a molar mass of 12.011. So follow me here. I have 6 atoms, and each one has a molar mass of 12.011. Now I need to divide this by, I go back. I need to divide this by the mass of the entire compound to find out what percentage is carbon. So for my whole compound, well, I have that 6 atoms of carbon, and each carbon has a molar mass of 12.011. Plus, I have 12 atoms of hydrogen. What is the molar mass of hydrogen? Go to your periodic table, find H for hydrogen, and the molar mass is 1.008. Now I also have 6 atoms of oxygen, and the molar mass of oxygen is 15.999. That means there's 15.99 grams per mole of it, which is a set quantity of it. All right, so when I calculate the numerator, 6 times 12.00011 gives me 72.066. Now I divide by the denominator. So when I calculate the denominator, I get 180.156. Carry down times 100, and you get 40%. So glucose is made up of 40% carbon. The problem tells us to calculate the percent by mass of each element. So now we go to the next element, hydrogen. We say, okay, we have 12 atoms of hydrogen, and the molar mass of hydrogen was 1.008 grams per mole of it, divided by, I don't need to write out the denominator again because this part is going to be the same for each of my elements in the compound. And I already know that it is going to be equal to 180.156 multiplied by 100. And the percent of hydrogen comes out to be 6.714%. Last one, oxygen. I have 6 atoms of oxygen and glucose, and each one has a molar mass of 15.99 divided by 180.156 grams per mole of glucose times 100. All right, crunch those numbers. Let's see what you get. Pause the video and calculate this. Pause it now. Welcome back. Did you get 53.28? Good job. So what this shows us is that if we have any amount like 100 grams or 576 grams of carbon, we are always going to have a definite proportion. So we have 40% carbon. We have 53% oxygen, and then we have 6.714% hydrogen. So that's our pie chart. All right, try example G. Jonathan has 20 grams of sugar and he has analyzed the mass of each element within the sample. He found 8.44 grams of carbon, 1.3 grams of hydrogen, and 10.26 grams of oxygen. Determine the percent by mass of each element. First, let's look at carbon. 8.44 grams. And to find percent by mass, it's always the grams of the element divided by the grams of the substance. He had 20 grams of glucose and multiply by 100. All right, I want you to pause this video and calculate this and see if you get the same answer. Pause it now. Welcome back. Did you get 42.2%? If you did, good job. If not, key it in a different way. Now we have hydrogen, and it said 1.30 grams of hydrogen out of 20. It's going to give you 6.5%. And lastly, oxygen, 10.26 grams out of 20 times 100. You got 51.3% oxygen. So that was pretty close to what we saw before, 40% carbon, 6.7% hydrogen, and 53% oxygen.